Shalom lekulam. We want to thank Nuchi for sponsoring this YouTube presentation, or rather Dvar Torah. It's Li'ilui Nishmat, both her father, Rabbi Natan Morovitz, and the Rebbetzin, his Rebbetzin, Rebbetzin Raphael Morovitz. Both of them have got different years, but both of them got basically the same yortzeit, a day or so apart. I think every one of us who lives in Netanya, know of the special contribution that this wonderful couple made impact not only on our community, but on the community of Young Israel, the whole community of Netanya Bechlal. In fact, we all know, a lot of us participated in the wonderful presentation of being a Yakir Netanya. He was presented for his work in Netanya as being one of the exemplary and special citizens of Netanya. It was a title and a certificate and given by the mayoress to Rabbi Morovitz. We know of his great chesed. He's has been involved so much in the community at large. And may these Divrei Torah be for him and for the Rebbetzin, who was a remarkable woman in her own right, Mamashi, that established the nursing school in Tzanz. And may it be for them a contribution that they should have an Aliyah Began Eden. I wanted to diverge a little bit from the minhag to say something about Gadolei Yisrael, who passed away in this last week. Actually, on Shabbat itself, there's a lot of Gedolim who passed away, but because of constraints of time, preferred to combine, first of all, one short idea, which I think to a large degree typifies Rabbi Morovitz Tzadik Livracha, and one from the Parsha, and then something also generally from on Purim, which will be in Yetz Hashem, as we're going to celebrate B'Sha'a Tova Mitzlachat on B'Yom Shlishi. We all know that in Parshat Tetzaveh, which speaks about the Big Day Kona, so one of the items of the Big Day Kona was the robe, the cloak, and at the bottom of the cloak, in the hem of the cloak, there were 72 bells, and interspaced were rimonim, pomegranates. And so many Mefarshim have spoken about what is this inyan, that at the bottom of his robe, when he was walking, so you could have this, you could hear the sounds of like a bell tinkling as he came into the Beit HaMikdash. So there's basically 4 or 5 categories of Mefarshim, and what I wanted to share with you, the well-known El Sheikh, who says that basically everything about the 72 bells interspaced with Rimonim was basically a message for the kohen gadol himself, and it all had to do with speech, because we're speaking about garments, and that this garment made a noise. There was a sound, a gentle sound of sound of the bells like ringing as he like walked. So it all had to do with sound and speech, and it was a reminder, first and foremost, basically to the Kohen Gadol. So the first thing that the El Sheikh says is that the Kohen Gadol was told, or through his wearing this garment, he was reminded that there's a bell, and then at the helm there's a decoration of a pomegranate, a bell, pomegranate, etc., all around the hem. So the point is that a person only has to speak half of the hem of the skirt, or the skirt of the coat, the cloak, was rimonim, which didn't make a sound, and half of them was rimonim, which did make a pamonim, which did make a sound. So therefore, what we've got over here is that a person has to be very careful. Not everything that he hears, not everything that he thinks, does he have to say out aloud. He has to display, for first and foremost, to himself, to have a discretion when to speak and when not to speak, and to know that a person should basically, half of what he's got to say he should keep to himself. And that's why the El Sheikh himself says we're given 2 eyes, we're given two ears, but we're given only one mouth. Usually, just in parenthesis, the Gra and others say that the ears and the eyes, they are organs which we can call them the organs of input, because we absorb the reality through what we hear and through what we see, right? But when it comes to speech is an organ which is associated, well, it is with eating, but basically it's to communicate, it's output. So the Gra says that we need 4 measures of input to 1 measure of output. He's speaking basically to when a person learns, everything that he says, he should have gone at least 4. A person wants to give a shiur of 1 hour, he has to have at least prepared it for 4 hours, because that's the ratio. But to get back to the point, the El Sheikh is saying that a person's got 2 of the other organs, but got only 1 mouth, and that's because a person has to be careful. When the bells could have been, for example, by the kohen gadols, it could have been around his waist, it could have been on his belt, but the fact that it's at the hem, at the mamash near his feet. So this teaches us a lesson that till a person has to think, and then afterwards it goes all the way down, right, from the thought process to the heart to the emotions. Then by the time he decides to speak, that's already at the bottom of his priorities. So that's the sort of a picture of how careful we have to be in our speech. Lastly, he said that obviously because there's a parmon and rimon in between. The rimon is something which there's no, it's symbolic, it's a metaphor for something that is so, let me put it this way. Let's say that a person's got a stocker box, and its stocker box is only a couple of coins. So then what you do is you can shake the box and it'll make a noise. But if the stocker box is totally full, so then it's so compressed that it's not going to make any noise. So that's what actually the parmon and the rimon, they symbolize. The parmon has got a space which then the knocking of the bell makes a noise. But with the rimon, all the seeds of the rimon are so packed. The fruit is the seeds. They're so packed together, which leaves no space in which, when you shake it or you shuffle it, that's the metaphor, that it can make a noise. That's what he's saying, is that a person has to be also careful not to have be careful on Lashon Hara, when to speak as a leader, Kohen Gadol and whatnot. And Rabbi Morovitz, in all Zecher Tzadik Livracha, in all my encounters with him, he had a speech which was naki, a speech which was dignified, a speech when he knew what to say and when not to say. A brief inyan of Purim is that we all know that Haman wasn't satisfied to kill only Mordechai, who didn't bow to him, but he wanted to kill all the Jews, even those who did bow down to him. I mean, from the Gemara, it's very clear that Mordechai was the only one who didn't bow down. All the other Rabbonim or Dayonim, which they clearly felt that they were allowed to bow down to Mordechai, to Haman, either because there wasn't really any Avodah Zorah over there. It was more like a cult figure. It was more out of like after all, the king had said that everyone in his kingdom, to do everyone, you should fill kirtzon ish v'ish. I mean, that was the That what was so ridiculous that you could think that you could do Ketzon all ish for ish. I mean, you look at America today, you see it's falling apart because everyone's Ketzon ish for ish. Every person thinks that he can do what he wants. Yeah, that's part of democracy. And now you've got clash the whole time between this one says it's my prerogative and my right to do this, and this one says it's my right to do that. So you see everything that falls apart. So to get back to the point, so they thought Ketzon ish for ish. They don't have to. They if they want, they can bow. If they don't want, they don't have to bow. Al kol panim, only Mordechai was the one who didn't bow. And what was it that then caused such a Haman to want to destroy all the Jews? I mean, there's many explanations. I think the most basic explanation is it's based on a Balatanya. The Balatanya doesn't say it, but it's based on a Balatanya who said that if you would ask, what is the definition of a Jew? What makes a Jew a Jew? Is it what he eats? He eats gefilte fish. People who don't eat gefilte fish are also Jews. Is it because they keep mitzvot? Well, there are people who don't keep mitzvot, and they're also Jewish. They're Jewish. They might not be Jewish. Like we want them to be Jewish, but they're 100% Jewish. People keep more Torah, less Torah, they're 100%. So what is the ingredient? What is the basic DNA? How would we define Jewishness? What is the central characteristic of being a Jew? And the Balatanya said that it's the Jew, the Jewish characteristic is that when he's up against the wall, a person, a Jew, is Mosei Nefesh. That's how it always was in history, when a Jew could have been a person who was so distant from Torah mitzvah. But then if you held a gun to his hand and you say, listen, or you give up your Jewishness completely, finished, right? Worship Avodah Zorah, assimilate, etc., or we're going to kill you, then the Jews did what they gave their lives on Kiddush Hashem. So Mordechai, that is exactly like how Haman looked at it. Haman understood that, every Jew is a Mordechai. He might not even be aware of it at the moment, but every Jew, when it comes to the crux of it, he in the end is not going to be Korah Mishtachaveh. And that's why he understood that what the real Jew is Mordechai, and all the others, it's latently there. At this moment, it's not like expressed, but basically it's all there in potential, that the Jew will not Korah Mishtachaveh, accepting to Hashem. And that commitment, and we see that that's exactly what happened, because when push came to shove, and when the people were threatened with annihilation, all those same people who bowed down, all those same people who participated in the Seudah V'Chashverosh, in which the vessels of the temple were paraded, and they'd lost all like backbone and all Jewish pride. But when it came now to deciding, look, there's now going to be no longer Jewish people, right? And now Haman is going to annihilate all of us, all of the people who, even if we want to be like the Persians, then they understood. Listen, we haven't got a breda. And then what they did was they davened, and that's when the Yeshua came. So every person, that's one of the message of Purim, is that every one of us, each and every Jew he is a Mordechai. He is someone who not Korah Mishtachaveh, but only to Hashem. So Shashpat Shalom lekulam, and Purim Sameach lekulam. All the best.